بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome everyone in today's class. This class is for the first secondary grade in English subject for the second semester, and the lesson is Unit 2 Grammar from the book Mega Goal 2, prepared by Abdullah Hussein and presented by me, Mazen Al-Harbi. So welcome everyone. Our objectives in today's lesson is number 1, we're going to talk about the conditional sentences with the if clause, and also about the conditional sentences with might and could, and the third thing is we're going to learn how to use the verb wish. So let's begin. So now we're going to start explaining what do we mean by the if clause, okay? So the first question, when do you think we actually use this if clause? For example, we use if we want to tell conditions of something, or let's say on preconditioning something. So we must start the sentences with if. Here with more explanation regarding conditional sentences with if clause imaginary situation. So we use conditional sentences to talk about imaginary or hypothetical situations in the present. And the second usage of it is that we use it in the simple past in the if clause. Would is often used in the main clause. Okay, so now we have two usages of the if clause. Okay, first in the to talk about imaginary situations or hypothetical situations in the present. Or for example, let's say if you practice a lot, you will pass, for example. And also here we can use it with the simple past in the if clause, and would will use it in the second clause, which is we call the main clause. For example, if I let's say if I slept earlier, I would wake up early. So this is also an example on how to use the simple past in the if clause and also with would in the main one. So here we have examples on the usage of the if clause in both the long forms and the short or contracted form. So for example, in the long forms we have an affirmative sentence which is said, if I studied, I would pass the exam. If I studied, I would pass the exam. And here we have as a short form, if I studied, I'd pass the exam. So what actually we shortened here is that the word would, instead of writing the whole word, we can only, in the shorted or contracted form, we can only add the D, okay, with a comma here. Okay, the second example, if I studied, I would not fail the exam. If I studied, I would not fail the exam. Let's see how is the short form. If I studied, I wouldn't fail the exam. If I studied, I wouldn't fail the exam. And here actually, what did we change is the N for the not form. So instead of writing not, we only can put comma and the verb T at the end. The same goes for the second one. If I did not study, if I did not study, I would fail the exam. And here actually on this example, we do actually have two shorted forms. The first one is did not. We, as you can see, we shorten it here. Okay, instead of writing not, we replace it with a comma. Okay. And here also with would, instead of writing would, we change it to a comma and the letter D. Okay, so this is an example on the on how to use or how to shorten the long forms of the if conditional sentences. Okay, So moving next to the other exercise we have. Okay, so what we need now an exercise. We're trying now to make sentences regarding this picture. So it stands here, look at the picture and try to make a sentence with using if clause. Okay, so as we learned previously, okay, that when can we use the if in the, we said that in if clause we use the past simple tense and would in the main clause. Okay, so now let me try I'm going to give the first example. Let's try to make a sentence out of this picture. So as we can see here, let's see what we have. We have a car, and obviously a biker is maybe crashed with this car, and it looks like an accident. So now let's try to write a sentence here. Let's say, for example, okay, let's say, for example, if we start with if I drove slowly, okay, so as we can see here, if I drive slowly, I would avoid the accident, and this is example on how to use the if clause with using the verb drive and also the word accident that we have here. And also, if you notice that we use the simple past as the first one and would in the main clause. And here let's make a similar situation. Let's try to think of an answer for this one. Let's say if I or if we, since we're looking at this picture, are a group of a team as team members, okay, we can say that if we played very well, we would win. Okay, so we can say here if, so we can write here if we played well, we would win. Okay, so this is an example, and if you notice that in the first one we use the verb played, and on the second one we use would, but that followed by a verb in the present tense. So now moving on, look at the picture and try to make a sentence. Also, as you can see here, someone is slept very early, and he wakes up very early and became, let's say, active. Okay, so he wakes up feeling very energetic, let's say. So here we can actually make a sentence. Make a sentence with using those two verbs. We can say that if I slept early, I would wake up early. If I slept early, I would wake up early. Okay, so this is a very interesting example regarding this. If I wake up early, I would, or if I slept early, I would wake up early. Okay, so here we have it, the example on those pictures. Okay, if I slept early, I would wake up early. Excellent. So now let's move on to the other section of our grammar, which is conditional sentences with might and could. So might actually can replace would in conditional sentences to only, and this is only expressing possibilities. For example, if plus the past tense, would plus infinitive. Okay, So let's say here, we'll show you some examples, okay? For example, this one. If he would eat too much, if he would eat too much, now notice here we use would plus the past form of this verb. He could be fat. He could be fat. And this is an example of possibility. This is example of possibility. So regarding using might and could, literally have further explanation. So could actually can be used in the if clause. It means that if someone were able to. For example, if I could travel anywhere, I would go to UK. If I could travel anywhere, I would go to UK. This is example of the usage of could. Another example on the usage of could in the main clause, it says here that could can also be used in the main clause. It means would be able to. Okay, so if we had more time, we could play another game of tennis. If we had more time, we could play another game of tennis. So this is actually also an example on when to use could in the if clause and when to use could in the main clause. So now we're moving on to the other sections of today's lesson, which is regarding wish. So we use wish actually for things that you want to happen, but probably it won't happen. Okay? For example, in the present, we have this example. This is a very interesting one. I don't have much time. I wish I had more time. So this is something that you want to happen, but it probably won't. You can't have more time for a certain action. Also, another example is the first one. I have to study today. I wish I didn't have to study today. Okay? So this is also an example on the things that you want to happen, but actually it could not happen. Also, number 3, I'm not rich. I wish I was or I were rich. Here also an example of, as we said, something that you want to happen, but it's not actually, or it won't actually happen. So in the future, we have here example on the future. He won't or will not lend me his car. I wish he would lend me his car. And here also example on the usage of wish on something that cannot actually happen, but you want it to happen. Okay. So now we reach the matching exercise. This is a very interesting one. So what we need to do is that on the left we have an if conditional or if clauses, okay, and on the right we have the main clauses. So what we have to do now is try to connect the if clauses with the main clauses as well, okay. So let's begin, okay, and try to read them separately, and then we'll try to do the exercise. So the first one says, if I were a very rich person, if I saw someone who was stealing in a store, if I had more experience, if I had to leave my home. And this is the if clauses examples and the sentences, and here we have the main clauses sentences. Let's read them. If I would call the police, I might live with my aunt, I wouldn't have to work, I'd apply for the job. Okay, so let's begin with number 1. Okay, if I were a very rich person, if I were a very rich person, okay? So what do you think? Which one of these following are actually matches this statement or can continue this statement? It is actually number D. I wouldn't have to work because I am very rich. The second one, If I saw someone who was stealing in a store, if I saw someone who was stealing from a store, logically, I would call the police. And the next one, if I had more experience, I would apply for the job. And the last one, if I had to leave my home, okay, I might live with my aunt, okay? So here actually the first one, okay, goes with number D, and the second one goes with F, and the third one goes with E, and the fourth one goes with P. So here are the answers after we collect them together. So if I were a very rich person, I would not have to work. If I saw someone who was stealing in a store, I would call the police. If I had more experience, I would apply for the job. And if I had to leave my home, I might live with my aunt. So those are the answers of this exercise. So now we reach at the summary of our lesson. We talked about conditional sentences with if clause and the conditional sentences with might and could, and also we did talk about the verb wish and what does it mean and when can we use it. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.